A kind, caring young woman stuck in an abusive family dynamic fights against the odds with kindness. A young heiress forced away from her family makes the most of her situation. She's later drugged and captured, but still remains the same kind person with dignity and grace. Are these plot lines from groundbreaking gender-bending films? No, it's just Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty. The Disney princesses get a bad rap for normalizing gendered behavior. For example, finding the man of your dreams or your Prince Charming makes everything all better. Critics would argue that there's an increase in stereotypical behavior in the girls that participate in the princess universe, as if it's a bad thing that these girls are badass rock stars beating the odds while still remaining kind. To ignore or deny that the Walt Disney Company is a major media conglomerate with an enormous fan base and powerful and prevalent culture is a mistake. The princesses are visible and influential narratives, so let's stop looking at them as damsels in distress and start celebrating them as the badass feminists they are. But first, what makes a feminist? A feminist is someone who believes in the equality of gender, sexual orientation, races, abilities, and disabilities. They fight for respect, follow their instincts, and fight for their goals. Just because some of the princesses have a prince doesn't mean that they completely lack autonomy. Disney has also started to include narratives that show girls fighting for what they believe in without a romantic plotline. Either way, the princesses have been encouraging young girls to break stereotypes and fight for what they believe in for decades. Let's take a look at some of my favorites. Mulan is not considered to be a perfect bride or a perfect daughter by society's standards. However, to save her dad, she essentially has to shed herself of all of her feminine attributes. She cuts her hair, takes her dad's armor and sword, and poses as a man to prove her strength and capability in a male-dominated world. We also see this straightforward feminism with Princess Tiana. She takes her life into her own hands and works for her restaurant. She doesn't need a man to make her dreams come true. Next is Princess Jasmine. She's one of the most undervalued princesses, but she's actually the first princess of color and the first princess who wears pants. Princess Jasmine is often criticized for bearing her midriff. She's often seen as over-sexualized. However, body shaming and slut shaming are pretty anti-feminist movements. She resists the patriarchy by defining her own future. She believes she should have control of her own life. Next up is Ariel. She's often criticized for wanting to physically change her body and literally gives up her voice to be with this man. However, within the first 10 minutes of the film, she's the one saving Prince Eric, not the other way around. She's not the damsel in distress. She uses her physical strength to save him. She wants to earn his love, but she yearns to be part of that world full of bright young women. And lastly, my personal favorite, Cinderella. Cinderella demonstrates strength and grace despite all of her awful circumstances. Her mom died when she was young. Her dad later dies and leaves her with an abusive stepmom. She's abused at the hands of another woman. Despite all of these obstacles, she rises above and cares for others with kindness anyway. To judge her on her romantic relationship completely minimizes the complexity of her situation. I think that we can all learn something from the Disney princesses' perseverance through discrimination, loss, and obstacles. The princesses are heroines and they are bad asses. So when a little kid says that they want to be like a Disney princess, I am all for it.